Chapter 21, Heavenly Constellation Golden Body, the Unstoppable Zoufan. I have to tell my master about this. What you're doing can really scare disciples like me to death. Hanju shook his head. He was really speechless. Cultivating divine arts in the middle of the night, acting mysterious. Just now, he really should have directly killed this great-grand elder's essence soul. Don't. I was just playing around for a moment. I apologize to you. I'm sorry, the great-grand elder hurriedly said. Amused, Hanju asked, You know my master? Cough, cough. Actually, your master is my disciple, so is the current sect master. The great-grand elder held his head high proudly. However, Hanju remained expressionless. The great-grand elder's smile immediately faded. Does he not believe me? Hanju said. Then I'll pretend that nothing happened tonight. You can leave. Really? No worries. The great-grand elder immediately turned around and left. He had just taken a few steps when he suddenly turned around and asked, Boy, I see that you're very talented. Do you want to inherit my legacy? Hanju raised his eyebrows and asked, What legacy? I'll impart to you an unparalleled cultivation technique, the Heavenly Constellation Golden Body. Do you want it? In the entire J Pure sect, only the sect master and I know it. Heavenly Constellation Golden Body. Sounds impressive. Hanju's eyes lit up. But on second thought, he hesitated. It wasn't even a pleasant encounter. Why would this old man teach him a cultivation technique? It must be a trap. Trying to trick me. Hanju shook his head and said, Never mind. Thank you for your kindness, sir. The great-grand elder's smile froze again. With a cold snort, he swung his sleeves and left. An hour later, Hanju left the cave abode and flew towards Jade Serene Hall. He stopped in front of the front gate and knelt. As the gate burst open, Hanju quickly walked in. Why are you here so late at night? Fairy Kaikswan asked with her eyes closed. Hanju knelt in front of her and told her everything that happened. Fairy Kaikswan opened her eyes and frowned. She was displeased. This damned old man is restless again. You almost killed him. Fairy Kaikswan asked curiously. Hanju scratched his head and said, Was cultivating a divine art, so I can only block it. That's not important. Master, will he come and harass me again? I don't want to be afraid every night. Don't worry, I'll go find him tomorrow. If he dares to come again, I'll deal with him myself. Thank you, Master. No worries. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. He could finally relax now. Before he left, he asked curiously, Master, is the Heavenly Constellation Golden Body powerful? He wanted to teach me this cultivation technique. Yes, it can be said to be the strongest cultivation technique of the J Pure sect. It's even more powerful than J Pure technique. However, before cultivating it, one needs to cut off one's roots. What root? The thing that makes you a man. Hanju wanted to curse. I knew it. That old man was up to no good. Wait, does this mean the great-grand elder and sect leader have already? Hanju discovered a shocking fact and felt his worldview shattered. This matter cannot be spread, Fairy Kaikswan said solemnly. I understand. Hanju bowed and left. After returning to his cave abode, Hanju was still thinking about the Heavenly Constellation Golden Body. No wonder even though Lai Kingzi liked Fairy Kaikswan, the two of them did not become companions. They're even more extreme than me. They both stay away from women by cutting their own. Hanju was impressed. At the same time, he labeled the great-grand elder as untrustworthy. The next morning, Hanju headed towards the inner sect city. The battle of the top 10 in the inner sect assessment would officially begin at noon. The inner sect assessment was different from the inner sect competition. The inner sect assessment was a way to become an elite disciple, and one could register freely. The inner sect competition was a competition between the 18 peaks, and the ranking was a motivation for each peak to work hard. The battle arena had already been built, located in the square in the center of the city, 300 meters long and wide. There was already a huge crowd around it. Many disciples were flying on their swords and floating in the air. It was a very spectacular sight. Junior, you're finally here. Excited, Chang Yuer immediately ran over. More than 10 disciples from Jade Serene Peak gathered around to cheer him on. Hanju frowned when he saw so many people. With so many people around, how am I supposed to act? Should I be more straightforward? Defeat them immediately? Hanju hesitated. Suddenly feeling a gaze settle on him, he turned around and saw Zhao Fan staring at him with a burning gaze, full of fighting spirit. Hanju was baffled. When did I provoke him? Zhao Fan recalled Mo Fucho's words that in this inner sect assessment, his greatest opponent was Hanju. Mo Fucho said that Hanju had always been hiding his strength and was not inferior to elite disciples. Because of this, Zhao Fan had always treated Hanju as an imaginary enemy. He didn't understand Hanju. With outstanding aptitude and stunning looks, why did he keep such a low profile? He heard that Mo Zhu had taken a liking to him, but Hanju had been avoiding her. The more Hanju kept a low profile, the more Zhao Fan felt sore. However, I already have a powerful trump card. He's definitely not my match, Zhao Fan thought firmly. At this moment, Mo Zhu suddenly appeared before Hanju and said excitedly, "Brother Han, I believe you will definitely take first place." Chang Yuer asked warily, "Who are you?" Mo Zhu looked back at her. They were obviously unhappy with each other. Hanju saw that their conflict was about to erupt and felt that something was wrong. "Husband." Hearing a burst of laughter, Hanju turned around and saw Xing Hongxuan. Chang Yuer and Mo Zhu both turned to look. Crap. Its Mars crashed into Earth. Hanju immediately turned and left. He had to leave the dangerous situation. However, the three women didn't follow him. Instead, they walked together and began to oppose each other. The surrounding disciples were envious of Hanju. Being good-looking makes him truly fearless. With so many beautiful juniors admiring him, he doesn't even care. This is a crime. At noon, the inner disciples assessment officially began. The person presiding over the assessment this time was the Heavenly Thunder Peak's old immortal de Waste Thunder. The elders of the other 17 peaks did not come. The spectators were ordinary elders, deacons, hall masters, and so on. More than 2,000 inner sect disciples and mortal slaves came to watch the battles. Although there weren't many inner sect disciples, there were many mortal slaves in the inner sect city. Hanju was participating in the very first match. When his name was called, he immediately went on stage. Hanju of the Jade Serene Peak versus Zhao Fan of the Heavenly Thunder Peak. Whoosh! The moment Zhao Fan's name was announced, the audience erupted. Recently, Zhao Fan was the most famous disciple in the inner sect. He could be said to be the biggest black horse. Rumors had it that he had a trump card that could defeat anyone instantly. He was undefeated in every battle and totally unstoppable. Zhao Fan cupped his fists and smiled. "Brother Han, you must do your best this time." Hanju asked expressionlessly, "Really? Really?" Zhao Fan raised his right hand, and a small black bell appeared in his palm. It was eerie and mysterious. In a nearby pavilion, the elders and deacons all frowned. They had long heard that Zhao Fan had a powerful secret weapon, a Dharma treasure. It was a birth Dharma treasure. What was a birth Dharma treasure? One that would be created at the birth of its owner. They were the legacy of his ancestors. Even if he had little potential, his ancestors would give him providence. Owners of birth Dharma treasures were usually successful. Upon seeing this treasure today, they all felt that it was extraordinary. Zhao Fan might really get first place in this inner sect assessment. Chapter 22. Attaining the Numinous Treasure, Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe. Seeing how confident he was, Hanju decided to get serious. Zhao Fan must be defeated before he could demonstrate his power. That was the only way to minimize the impact. If Hanju defeated him when Zhao Fan released all of his power, it would only show that Hanju was even stronger. In that way, he wouldn't be able to keep a low profile anymore. With so many people watching, it was impossible for Hanlai to delay until everyone left. After his decision, Hanju walked towards Zhao Fan. Mo Zhu said with a solemn expression, "Zhao Fan's birth Dharma treasure is very strong. Because of this treasure, Master made an exception and took him in as a personal disciple. Cheng Yu disdainfully said, "He's no match for Junior Han." Xing Hongzhuan didn't say anything. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on Han Ju. Zhou Fan had a confident smile on his face, but seeing Han Ju walking straight towards him, he still felt inexplicably flustered. Because he had often heard Mo Fukao brag about him. Slowly he felt that Han Ju was very strong. "Today I will defeat him and prove my strength. Watch carefully. I'll make you regret it and let you know that you've underestimated me." Zhou Fan thought about it silently. When he thought about that smiling handsome face, he was furious. He raised the small black bell, preparing to display his power. A crazed smile appeared on his face. So what if he's gifted? Today, I, Zhou Fan, will defeat this gifted cultivator. Swish. A blinding sword flashed, causing Zhou Fan to subconsciously close his eyes. Boom. Zhou Fan was sent flying, vomiting blood. He was like a kite with a broken string, blown out of the battle arena. Silence. Everyone was silent. Everyone was stunned. They had yet to recover from their shock. The battle ended so quickly. Even old Immortal Dao Thunder, who was overseeing the inner sect assessment, widened his eyes. Han Ju retracted his technique, and the sword shadow behind him quickly disappeared. It only appeared for less than 2 seconds. He turned and bowed to old Immortal Dao Thunder with cupped fists. Old Immortal Dao Thunder came back to his senses and announced, "Jade Serene Peak's Han Ju wins." Boom! The crowd burst into excitement. The male disciples discussed, and the female disciples stared at him with glowing eyes. So fast. See, Zhou Fan is just mediocre. Han Ju is too strong. Who is Han Ju? When did such a genius appear in Jade Serene Peak? He's so handsome. Could he be the one the female disciples often discuss? Han Ju quickly left the stage and disappeared into the crowd. Since the battle arena wasn't destroyed, the second battle soon began. Zhou Fan was helped out of the crowd by a group of Heavenly Thunder Peak disciples. There was still blood at the corner of his mouth. His face was pale and his eyes were lifeless. He seemed to have lost his soul. The blow was too great. He didn't even know how he lost. But the moment he was hit by the 3 Pure Shadows sword technique, he sensed imminent death. He knew that Han Ju could have killed him. One moment he was still full of confidence. The next moment he was off the platform. Zhou Fan wished she could dig a hole to hide. He knew he had become a joke. Cheng Yu, Xing Hongzhuan, and Mo Zhu tried to look for Han Ju but couldn't find him. He hid amidst the crowd and watched silently. 2 hours later, the top 5 were decided. The 5 disciples would draw lots to decide who would skip the next round and head straight to the top 3. The disciples didn't have any objections. At this stage, the difference in strength wasn't great. Everyone could be in the top 3. Luck was an indispensable thing on the path of cultivation. Han Ju hesitated. If he became one of the top 3, maybe he could just give up straight away. In any case, the top 3 could choose the connate cave abode. That's it. This way, his influence would be minimized. He prayed silently. Han Ju of the Jade Serene Peak is going to the top 3 straight away. The other 4 disciples looked at him with envy and vigilance as old Immortal Dewey's Thunder made the announcement. They had all witnessed Han Ju defeating Zhou Fan in a flash. This fella didn't use much of his spirit energy and was still in his peak state. Han Ju was overwhelmed with joy as he quietly walked off the stage. Cheng Yu and the other 2 immediately surrounded him, preventing him from escaping. "Junior, you have a good chance of getting first place this time," Cheng Yu said excitedly. Mo Zhu and Xing Hongzhuan were also very excited. They all admired Han Ju and naturally hoped to see him in the limelight. Han Ju shook his head and said, "I can't. It's already not easy to come this far." Zhou Fan, who was making his way over, almost fainted when he heard that. He still wanted to ask Han Ju what kind of spell he had used to defeat him, but he ended up hearing such words. Zhou Fan was so angry that he spat out blood. The disciple in front of him was sprayed full of blood. Zhou Fan quickly turned and left. Han Ju turned around to see, but Zhou Fan was already gone. The next 2 matches were intense. Equipment, magic, movement techniques, and talismans. All sorts of things appeared. The 4 disciples were all rounded and on par with each other. No matter who was the final winner, they still put on a good fight. The top 3 were finally on stage. The 3 of you will each fight 2 more rounds with different opponents. The one who wins twice will be the first, a win and a defeat will be the second, and losing twice will be the third. Old Immortal de Waste Thunder explained the rules. Han Ju suddenly raised his hand and said, "Elder, I admit defeat. Previously, in order to quickly defeat my opponent, I exhausted all of my spiritual energy and have yet to recover. Let the 2 of them fight it out. I'm willing to be third." Whoosh! Everyone was shocked. Chang Yue and the other 2 girls also widened their eyes. Zhou Fan was stunned when he heard that. Really? If that wasn't the case, why would Han Ju admit defeat? So I'm not that weak. Zhou Fan's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 2 stars. When Han Ju saw the words in front of him, he said in his head, "This guy is nuts." Old Immortal de Waste Thunder stared at him and then nodded. He changed the rules, and Han Ju was ranked 3rd. Han Ju immediately got off the stage. The following fight was less exciting than the previous ones. Both of them had consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Han Ju felt that he could have taken on both of them together. In the end, the top 3 were decided, and the intersect assessment ended. The top 3 followed Old Immortal de Waste Thunder to Main Peak. On his way there flying on his sword, a line appeared before Han Ju. You entered the top 3 in the intersect assessment while keeping a low profile. You will obtain a numinous treasure. Congratulations on obtaining a 7th grade numinous treasure, Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe. Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe, a 7th grade numinous treasure that can automatically defend against an enemy's attack. It can defend against up to a blow from a soul formation realm cultivator. If you inject spirit energy into it, its defensive power will increase. Han Ju raised his eyebrows. Defending against a blow from a soul formation realm cultivator, so powerful. It was indeed a numinous treasure stronger than equipment and Dharma treasures. A 7th grade numinous treasure. Could there be 6th grade, 5th grade, and up to 1st grade numinous treasures? How powerful would a 1st grade numinous treasure be? Han Ju guessed silently. He was in a good mood. This was too satisfying. After obtaining the Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe, he felt very safe, and he was going to get a connate cave abode. It was a very fruitful intersect assessment. Once he wore the Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe, he would be able to cultivate in peace and wouldn't have to worry about sneak attacks. Soul formation realm cultivators were few in number. Hardly one appeared every century in the Jade Pure sect. However, the Golden Cicada's Mystic Divine Robe could only protect him. If he ran into a nascent soul cultivator, they wouldn't be able to kill him, and neither would he be able to kill them. Han Ju couldn't help but smile. Why are you so happy to be in 3rd place? Did Fairy Kaikswan tell you to only fight for 3rd place? Old Immortal de Waste Thunder suddenly asked. The 2 disciples in front turned to look at Han Ju with strange expressions. They weren't stupid and also felt that Han Ju's surrender was too dubious. However, it was also good news for them, so they didn't question it. Chapter 23. Obtain a connate cave abode. New target is Golden Core Realm. Han Ju replied, "I'm not happy because of getting 3rd place, but excited to come to Main Peak for the first time. Master never told me to stop at the top 3. I haven't been in Jade Serene Peak for long. Although I became her personal disciple, Master said that as long as I do my best, it's fine." Old Immortal de Waste Thunder snorted in obvious disbelief. Zhou Fan was his personal disciple, and Han Ju admitted defeat right after beating him. Han Ju was obviously not giving Heavenly Thunder Peak face. But as an elder, Old Immortal de Waste Thunder couldn't lash out at him. Han Ju smiled politely at the other 2 disciples. The 3 of them didn't talk much, and it wasn't suitable for them to talk at the moment. Before long, they arrived at main peak. Old Immortal Deweis Thunder introduced them to Deweis Jingsu and left. The top 3 participants of the Inner Court assessment this time will be promoted to elite disciples. Besides that, all you can choose a connate cave abode. The first place will get to choose first, Deweis Jingsu said expressionlessly as she inconspicuously glanced at Hanju. This kid actually managed to reach the top 3. Looks like this winner wasn't mistaken. He's indeed talented. The 2 disciples weren't surprised. Clearly, they already knew about the connate cave abode beforehand. Deweis Jingsu waved her right hand, and the images of 3 connate cave abodes appeared. The 3 abodes surrounded the edge of a mountain range. Hanju took a glance and guessed that it was a map of the Jade Pure sect. Are they making us security guards? Hanju ridiculed in his head. The 3 cave abodes nicely surrounded the 18 peaks. Nevertheless, a connate cave abode was too attractive. It was like a free spiritual pool. It was still acceptable. Now that he had the Golden Cicada's mystic divine robe, he wasn't afraid of any danger anyway. Deweis Jingsu began to introduce the 3 cave abodes. The first was rich with fire and wine spirit ki. The second was relatively abundant with water, fire, and wood spirit ki. The last had spirit ki of all attributes, but each only as rich as in a usual spiritual pool. There were no surprises. Hanju was left with the last cave abode. Cultivators who could reach this stage were all geniuses with 3 or 4 cultivation potentials. However, they usually only cultivated a single attribute, so they would choose the first 2 connate cave abodes. Hanju couldn't choose but still ended up with the one that suited him the most. After choosing the cave abode, Hanju was given a talisman. Tearing the talisman would lead them to their connate cave abodes. The 3 of them bowed and left. After walking out of the hall, Hanju immediately tore the talisman. A golden pigeon appeared out of thin air and flew into the distance. Hanju immediately followed it. The other 2 bid farewell and also parted. After flying after the golden pigeon for half an hour, Hanju finally found the connate cave abode. It was located in a forest. The golden pigeon flew head-on into the cliff wall, inducing a glow in the wall. Feeling the fluctuations of spirit ki, there was probably a formation in front. A hole appeared on the cliff wall, and Hanju immediately walked in. The tunnel was wide enough for 4 people to walk side by side. After walking for 50 steps, he saw the cave abode. It was huge, and the walls were damp. There was a hole at the top of the cave where cold air flowed in. In the middle of the cave, there was a pool with many water plants. The water was warm, and vapor could be seen above the surface. Hanju felt that the dense spirit ki might be slightly more concentrated than the spiritual pools, and it contained all 6 attributes. Hanju was satisfied. He first took out the Golden Cicada's mystic divine robe and wore it before putting on the Jade Pure Sect's de-waste robe over it. The moment Hanju put on the numinous treasure, he felt his entire aura change. He felt so safe. Hanju smiled happily as he walked back to the cave entrance. He looked up. This was his exclusive cave now. He had to give it a name. He used his finger as a sword to carve words above the cave entrance. Endure today, freedom tomorrow. Hanju nodded in satisfaction. It was a good piece of calligraphy. The strokes demonstrated his power and the strength of his sword ki. After carving the line, Hanju chopped the trees nearby and then made a table, chairs, and a bed. At Jade Serene Hall, Fairy Kaixuan was expressionless. Chang Yue recounted what had happened in the inner sect assessment. When she heard that Hanju admitted defeat after entering the top 3, the corner of her mouth twitched. This kid, so unambitious. Fairy Kaixuan admired Hanju's heart towards the Tao, but she couldn't understand why he was so afraid of being in the limelight. He's ridiculously cowardly. Most importantly, Hanju's appearance was extremely outstanding. It was hard for him not to stand out. Master, did Junior Han suffer persecution when he was young? Chang Yue asked. Fairy Kaixuan was deep in thought. It looked like she had to ask Elder Iron. Can it be that Elder Iron tortured Hanju before? Thinking of this, Fairy Kaixuan's glare turned cold. She had never liked Elder Iron. If it weren't for his meritorious service in the outer sect, no one would be willing to accept him into the inner sect, even if he reached the Foundation Establishment realm. Elder Iron had hardly any potential. After the inner sect assessment ended, Hanju didn't attract much attention. The disciples would only smile when others mentioned him. Hanju also didn't go to the inner sect city and stayed in the connate cave to cultivate. He was prepared to enter the Golden Core realm as soon as possible. All his spirit Kai had already reached the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. As long as he cultivated them to perfection, he would be able to reach the Golden Core realm. Hanju was full of fighting spirit. Once he reached the Golden Core realm, he would be able to use the 6 paths of reincarnation's divine powers. The 6 paths of reincarnation technique had its own divine art, but it required one to reach a certain realm. Reaching the Golden Core realm would unlock one of those. Half a month later, he had visitors. They were Mo Fuqiao and Zhou Fan. When they saw the carvings above the entrance, they were speechless. Endure today, freedom tomorrow. It really suited his personality. Brother Han, Mo Fuqiao is here to visit. Mo Fuqiao shouted with cupped fists. After a few seconds, the door opened. The two of them immediately walked in. Hanju was meditating by the pool when they saw him. Hanju opened his eyes and asked, "What brings you here?" Zhou Fan looked at him with a complicated expression. Mo Fuqiao smiled and said, "Recently, the conflict between us and the viridescent nether cult has been escalating. Who knows when a full-scale war will break out one day? We would like to invite you to go on a mission together and take down one of the cult's branches. Apparently, they possess many pills that can help you cultivate." Before coming, Mo Fuqiao had thought about it. If he wanted to convince Hanju, he had to talk about cultivation. Hanju shook his head and said, "Thank you for your kind intentions. I don't want to leave for the time being. I have to enter seclusion to break through." Breakthrough in seclusion? Both of them were stunned. Zhou Fan couldn't help but ask, "You want to enter the Golden Core realm?" Hanju nodded. It's not that easy to break through to the Golden Core realm. The heavenly tribulation you will face is even more terrifying than the one at the Foundation Establishment realm. You have to rely on some tribulation transcendence pills to neutralize the power of the heavenly lightning and consolidate your Tao heart, Mo Fuqiao reminded. Zhou Fan added, "This mission is very important. If we perform well, we will definitely succeed. Our status in the J Pure sect will also rise in the future, and we will be able to make a name for ourselves in the cultivation world. You have received an invitation from a fellow disciple. Facing fame and fortune, you have the following choices." 3 lines of words appeared before Hanju's eyes. Isn't it obvious?" Hanju said righteously, "I'm sorry, I'm not interested in fame or fortune. I just want to cultivate diligently. If the J Pure sect is in trouble in the future, I'll definitely risk my life defending the sect. But right now, I don't want to leave the sect." Chapter 24, Golden Core Realm, Kailan Sword. No matter how Mo Fuqiao and Zhou Fan tried to persuade him, Hanju would not give in. The two could only leave helplessly. After leaving the cave abode, the two flew for a distance. Zhou Fan couldn't help but say, "Although he's powerful, he's too timid." He had already put it nicely. Frankly, he wanted to say that Hanju was afraid of death. He had heard from other disciples of Jade Serene Peak that Hanju was good at everything, but he was too timid. Mo Fuqiao didn't speak for Hanju this time. He sighed and said, "One can't only cultivate in seclusion. We're mortals. We still have to fight for opportunities. Just wait and see, he will come to his senses sooner or later." Zhou Fan nodded. He suddenly looked forward to this mission. Once he obtained those elixirs, he might be able to surpass Hanju. Thinking of this, Zhou Fan was very excited. Previously, he had been knocked out by Hanju in the inner sect assessment. It was really traumatic. Although he didn't hate him, he had always wanted to regain his honor. Congratulations on attaining a Little Universe Belt. Little Universe Belt. It contains a large alternate space. It can be used as a storage ring or storage bag. The belt is elastic and not easily destroyed. Hanju raised his eyebrows and looked at the little universe belt in his hand. The belt was like a scroll of painting, but a very narrow one. He used his divine sense to probe it. There was an alternate space of 1,000 cubic meters within. It was much bigger than his storage bag. He immediately dripped his blood on it to claim the belt. After he succeeded, he threw everything into the little universe belt and tied it around his waist. The belt tightened around his robe. It wasn't too tight nor too loose around his waist. Very comfortable. Hanju played with it for a while before resuming cultivation. 2 years passed in a flash. His 6 spiritual powers had all reached perfection. He was preparing to transcend the tribulation. He activated the barrier function and underwent his tribulation in the cave abode. Although the heavenly tribulation of the Golden Core realm was formidable, it was far from being able to destroy the mountain. The heavenly thunder would be concentrated above his head. Apparently, the Golden Core realm's heavenly tribulations would provoke his inner evil. Only around 3 in 10 Foundation Establishment realm cultivators could break through to the Golden Core realm. They would either be struck to death by the heavenly tribulation or be driven mad from the inner evil. Hanju had a top-notch cultivation potential and practiced top techniques. He wasn't afraid of these obstacles. As he activated his cultivation method, dark clouds started to gather above him. Lightning began flashing. At the same time, a voice sounded in Hanju's mind. What do you want? Fame? Money? Women? You're already strong enough. Stop concealing yourself and show the world your strength. This voice was like a demon, constantly bewitching him. Hanju was indifferent and even wanted to laugh. Is this the inner evil? So lame. As Hanju moved his hand, the spirit energy in his body surged. Foundation establishment, Golden Core formation. Spirit energy began to gather in his dantian like the center of a whirlpool in his body. Bolts of lightning suddenly shot out from the dark clouds and landed on Hanju's body. Hanju directly used the 6 paths of reincarnation technique to absorb the heavenly lightning. Transcending the tribulation with 6 types of spiritual force was simple and smooth. Hanju's thunder cultivation potential was unable to completely absorb the heavenly lightning. However, he was able to fend off the excess with other spirit energy. He didn't feel a thing. He soon noticed that it wasn't his spirit energy that was doing the job, but the golden cicada's mystic divine robes effect. This numinous treasure can actually help me transcend the tribulation, Hanju thought in surprise. The golden cicada's mystic divine robe was able to withstand an attack from a soul formation realm cultivator. Would it also be able to help him transcend to the nascent soul realm in the future? Hanju got excited. What a treasure! Motivated, Hanju continued his tribulation. 7 days later, Hanju finally succeeded. Congratulations on breaking through to the Golden Core realm and attaining an unparalleled magical sword. Congratulations on attaining the Kylan sword. Kylan sword. A sword made from the bones of a Kylan. It contains the Kylan soul and has the effect of exorcising evil. A sword appeared in Hanju's hand. This sword was completely black, and the blade was embedded with Kylan scales. The hilt looked even more awesome. The blade was 3 fingers wide and 1 meter long. Holding this sword, Hanju's palm felt cool. What a cool sword! It matched him very well. Hanju put the Kylan sword away and began consolidating his Golden Core realm cultivation. Half a month later, he began to cultivate the 3rd level of the 6 paths of reincarnation technique, and at the same time, he inherited his first mystical power. 6 paths soul absorption technique. As the name implied, this mystical power could absorb souls, especially wandering ghosts. After mastering it, Hanju could also see souls that ordinary people couldn't. After Hanju learned the cultivation method, he started to cultivate the mystical power. His top-notch cultivation potential of 6 attributes allowed him to learn it within 10 days. As expected of a mystical power, it was much more difficult to learn than magic, and it was obviously stronger. Hanju really wanted to try it on wandering ghosts, but this was the J Pure sect. He opened his attributes panel. Lifespan has increased to 499 years. Not bad. 400 years is enough for me to break through to the nascent soul realm. I bet I can break through in 100 years, Hanju thought proudly. He suddenly remembered that he hadn't bid farewell to Fairy Swan after the intersect assessment. I'm being rude. Hanju immediately stood up and left. After leaving the cave abode, he flew to the Jade Pure Sect's intersect. It was easy to find his way. The 18 peaks were too eye-catching. Hanju checked his interpersonal relationships as he flew on his sword. The favorability and hatred didn't change much. He opened the mailbox. Your good friend Lai Kingzi was attacked by a fiendish cultivator. Your good friend Lai Kingzi was attacked by a fiendish cultivator. Omit 10 similar messages. Your good friend Lai Kingzi was attacked by a fiendish cultivator and was severely injured. He luckily escaped. Hanju was stunned. Sect leaders being attacked by the fiendish cultivators. So many messages, it looks really bad. Hanju became nervous. Is the cult about to launch an attack on us soon? While thinking, Hanju arrived at Jade Serene Peak. He quickly came to the front of Jade Serene Hall and knelt down. After the door opened, he got up and entered the hall. Junior Han, you're finally willing to come back. Cheng Yuver complained. Hanju raised his eyebrows. Is this girl actually Fairy Swan's relative? Why do I bump into her every time I come here? Cheng Yu's cultivation had reached the 5th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. This speed could be considered fast among ordinary people, but it was incomparable to Hanju's speed. Completely incomparable. Hanju knelt in front of Fairy Swan and said, "Greetings to you, Master." After the intersect assessment ended, this disciple was in a hurry to cultivate and forgot to visit you. Fairy Swan narrowed her eyes and asked, "You actually still remember to come back? I thought you'd already betrayed me." Hanju was embarrassed. He was about to explain when Fairy Swan continued, "The J Pure Sect is about to face an unprecedented disaster. I'll give you a chance. You can leave the sect right now." Chapter 25. Gaining Favorability, Well-Rounded Senior. Hearing Fairy Swan's words, Hanju's first reaction was that she was joking. At this moment, words suddenly appeared before his eyes. Your sect master is in danger. No one knows whether he's still alive. You have the following choices. Hanju frowned. He subconsciously wanted to pick the first choice and avoid the danger. But on second thought, I'm wearing the Golden Cicada's mystic divine robe. What am I afraid of? Hanju asked. What about you, Master? Fairy Swan's expression was calm as she replied, "Survive or perish. I will stay at the Jade Pure Sect." Cheng Yu wanted to say something but hesitated. Hanju said seriously, "Then I will follow you, Master." He would do missions and increase others' favorability of him. Fairy Swan's favorability of you has increased. Current favorability, 3 stars. 3 stars. With one more, will she be a potential companion? Hanju thought. I'm being obscene. My heart follows the Tao. It cannot become filthy. Fairy Swan's expression remained unchanged as she asked, "Really, aren't you afraid of death?" Death is unavoidable. When the time comes, one either has an impactful or a mediocre life. Even though I pursue longevity, I won't abandon you, Master. I've never taught you anything. Yes, but your kindness and care are invaluable. You've helped me compete for opportunities and settle potential troubles. I remember all of that. He actually meant it. After being reborn and living for more than 60 years, Fairy Swan was the person who treated him the best. Although Xing Hongzhuan liked him the most, she had once threatened him. Ever since he had entered Fairy Swan's tutelage, she hadn't made things difficult for him. Even if he hadn't followed her instructions, she hadn't blamed him. Hanju really didn't want such a good master to die. However, if he encountered an overpowered enemy, Hanju would still prioritize his own life. My main mission in life won't change. Longevity, longevity, longevity. After hearing Hanju's heartfelt words, Fairy Swan smiled with relief, as expected of a disciple of Jade Serene Peak. However, the situation is not as dire as sect dissolution. Even if Sect Master has gone missing, our foundation is still there. I know that you're very afraid of death, so I asked you to leave first." Fairy Kaikswan smiled. Hanju nodded and asked, "Where did Sect Master go missing?" "He went to investigate the viridescent nether cult." "I see." Hanju was relieved. It would be terrible if he was abducted in the Jade Pure sect. The viridescent nether cult had attacked Lake Kingsley dozens of times, but they had only managed to severely injure him. It seemed like there was no nascent soul realm cultivator among them. If that was the case, Hanju was more confident about his safety. A nascent soul realm cultivator couldn't kill him. "Are there any problems with your cultivation recently?" Fairy Kaikswan asked with gentle eyes. Speaking of which, she hadn't really taught this disciple yet. Hanju shook his head and said, "No, there's no need to trouble you, Master." If he cultivated with Fairy Kaikswan, wouldn't he be exposing his golden core realm cultivation? If the sect elders heard about it, they might drag him over to labor. When Fairy Kaikswan heard this, she immediately snorted. "Then get lost." "Yes, Master." Hanju left. He had just left the hall when Fairy Kaikswan took up a storage bag and handed it to Chang Yuer. "Help your junior according to what I said." Chang Yuer nodded and stood up excitedly. As soon as Hanju flew out of the Jade Serene Peak, he heard a whistling sound behind him. He turned around and saw Chang Yuer chasing after him on her sword. "Junior Han, wait for me." Chang Yuer waved her hand and shouted with a happy smile on her face. Hanju frowned and stopped. Chang Yuer stopped at his side and waved the storage bag in her hand, saying there's a set formation and some spirit herb seeds inside. "Master asked me to help you set up the formation and plant spirit herbs to increase the spirit tide in your cave abode." When Hanju heard this, his brows immediately relaxed. He cupped his fists and said, "Thanks to our master." "Thank you, senior." Chang Yuer smiled even more happily. The two of them continued flying towards the Connate cave abode. Arriving at the entrance of the cave abode, Chang Yuer saw the words on the stone door. With a strange expression, she muttered, "Endure today, freedom tomorrow." This name. Hanju entered the cave expressionlessly. Chang Yuer followed closely behind. She stopped at the edge of the tunnel and took out the equipment for the formation and began setting it up. Hanju turned around and stood behind her, observing closely. Learning how to set up formations was also beneficial for the future. Chang Yuer noticed that he was behind her and couldn't help but become more serious. After nearly 2 hours, she finally finished setting up the array formation. The switch was embedded into the wall of the cave. It was a piece of jade stone that could be activated by pouring spirit energy into it. This array formation could conceal the cave's entrance. If one were to forcibly enter it, they would be trapped in an illusion and become unable to extricate themselves. Hanju sighed. "I didn't expect you to know array formations." Chang Yuer smiled proudly and said, "What do you think I'm learning from Master all the time? Although my cultivation level is inferior to yours, I know alchemy, talisman crafting, array formations, exorcism, and so on." He had a whole new level of respect for her. Chang Yuer turned around and walked into the cave abode. After sizing it up, she walked to the pool's side and began planting spirit herbs. "If I become an immortal one day, I will let you be my herbalist. So you should work hard on these skills," Hanju said with a smile. Chang Yuer harumphed, "In your dreams. I'm your senior. If I were to be something, I will be your hey." She suddenly laughed. Hanju played dumb and didn't reply. Rebuffed, Chang Yuer continued planting the spirit herb seeds. 10 minutes later, she finished planting all the seeds. Hanju thanked her hurriedly. "That's all. I won't disturb your cultivation any longer. After some time, I'll move over to accompany you. How about that?" Chang Yuer covered her mouth and asked, even winking at him. Vigilant, Hanju asked, "You want to take advantage of my cave abode?" Chang Yuer rolled her eyes at him and turned to leave angrily. After she left the cave abode, Hanju let out a long sigh. He patted his chest and muttered, "Oh, Hanju, it's really difficult to protect your body." Hanju walked to the cave's entrance. After activating the formation, he returned to the wooden bed and started cultivating. the first level of the Golden Core realm couldn't satisfy him. After mastering the third level of the 6 paths of reincarnation art, his ki absorption speed was much faster than before. Coupled with the rich spirit Kai in the connate cave abode, he cultivated very happily. 5 years passed in a flash. Hanju's thunder cultivation potential had reached the third level of the Golden Core realm, while the other cultivation potentials had yet to be cultivated. He planned to cultivate his thunder cultivation potential to the 9th level of the Golden Core realm before cultivating his other cultivation potentials. After all, the cult could attack at any time. His lifespan had also increased slightly. There were many ways to increase his lifespan on the path of cultivation, such as pills, natural treasures, and cultivation techniques. Hanju's lifespan was only his most basic lifespan. If his cultivation couldn't break through, he could use other methods to increase it. In these 5 years, the J-Pure sect was safe. However, sect master Lei Qingzi was often pursued by fiendish cultivators and was always heavily injured. Mo Fukyo and Zhou Fan were also frequently attacked by fiendish cultivators. It seemed like their adventures were truly fascinating. Every time he saw the messages of them being attacked by fiendish cultivators, Hanju felt lucky he didn't follow them. Hanju was still cultivating when a line of words appeared before his eyes. Detected bearer of connate Providence, check its origin.